brown eyes are what have allowed us to evolve as a species to the current point. Imagine being under a blazing sun, without sunglasses, without protection, and you just lost sight of your prey. Not because it's not there, but because your vision collapsed under the light. At that moment, you just signed your death sentence. But there was a group that could see, and it wasn't instinct, it was because of the color of their eyes. That's how an evolutionary advantage began. The brown eyes. Somewhere near the equator, the first humans looked toward the horizon with eyes designed for survival. Brown, intense, loaded with melanin. Not for aesthetics, but out of necessity. Melanin acted as a natural barrier. While light-colored eyes scatter light in a visual spectacle, brown eyes suppress it. They are opaque by design. They are better prepared for intense light than the other colors. Melanin is also responsible for the color of your skin and hair, but you will understand that later. And that ancient design didn't disappear. Today, more than 70% of the world's population still have that same built-in defense. Brown eyes are not rare, but they are a relic. A life that comes from hundreds of thousands of years ago. If we had not developed brown eyes, we would have less vision in very bright conditions, and in the open savanna that was deadly. Under the blazing sun, the difference between hunter and prey was a matter of seconds. We would have been preyed upon before we could react, and perhaps today, another species would be telling this story. Culturally, brown eyes have been linked to warmth, reliability, and stability. But they have also been described as mysterious, serious, even intimidating. Why? Because brown eyes are hard to read. They do not change with light or shine with emotion like lighter eyes do. They absorb instead of reveal. But under certain lights, like the low sun, candlelight, or the evening mist, something strange happens. Brown eyes begin to shine. They don't turn bright blue or green, but amber or honey-colored. It's the melanin once again dispensing just enough light to reveal what was hidden. Blue eyes are a contradiction. There is nothing blue in your eyes, and yet everyone calls them that. Imagine it. A baby opens its eyes for the first time, and everyone stops. There is something hypnotic. Everyone smiles when they see blue eyes, but this is just an optical illusion. What you are seeing is not a color, it is a trick of the light. In reality, blue eyes are transparent. They have no blue pigment or defined hue. What happens is that the light, upon entering the eye, scatters in the layers of the eye, and only a part of it returns outward. That part is what deceives you. It's the same phenomenon that colors the sky blue or turns sunsets orange. But here, it is happening inside your eye. And the craziest thing is that every person with blue eyes on the planet, more than 500 million, shares the same origin. A genetic mutation that occurred between 6,000 and 10,000 years ago, somewhere near the Black Sea. It was a change in the OCA2 gene, which reduced the production of melanin, before the eye absorbed the light. After that mutation, it began to dispense it. But this was not just an aesthetic change. It was the beginning of an unexpected chain, a mutation turned into a symbol of beauty. In almost the whole world. In Northern Europe, blue eyes became filled with meanings. Purity, spirituality, coldness. In some legends, it was said that those with blue eyes could see the soul or steal it. But not everything is so pretty. Blue eyes change with age. Sometimes they lighten, sometimes they lose intensity. Not because they absorb more, but because the body changes and melanin redistributes. And those same eyes, which once could make you the most popular in your class, can become gray and opaque, almost nostalgic. It's as if the illusion is slowly fading away. Green eyes. Once you see them, you don't forget them. Not because they're bright or intense, but because they shouldn't exist. Only 2% of humanity has green eyes. They are rarer than red hair. Statistically speaking, they are even rarer than being born with 12 fingers. And yet, there they are. But what's surprising is not their rarity, but all the conditions that have to occur for them to exist. For an eye to be green, the body needs to execute a precise chemical combination. Not too much melanin, because they would turn brown, nor so little that the light disperses like in blue eyes. And besides, it needs the presence of lipochrome, a pigment that gives that yellow hue that tints the reflected light. Now add that to the natural dispersion of light. The result is an almost impossible color, a green illusion that only appears if everything occurs in perfect balance. but that balance is fragile. A minimal change in the pigment and the green disappears. That's why green eyes are not constant and change with the light. In shadow, they darken. With direct light, they lighten. And indoors, they can look completely different from how they seem outdoors. It's as if they don't have a defined color, but rather a story that's rewritten in real time. It is no coincidence that for centuries, they've been associated with the inhuman, witches, forest gods, mythological creatures. They all have green eyes. The most curious thing is that no one is born with these eyes. It is a color that appears over time, as if the body is perfecting it, as if the eye knows it is not yet ready to show its final version. Some popular beliefs claim that people with green eyes have greater intuition, sharper perception, or an extraordinary creativity. However, until now, there are no conclusive scientific studies to support these ideas. But it takes just one look to understand why it was said. Hazel eyes are quite curious. Yesterday they could be green, today golden. You look in the mirror and don't recognize the color. You approach the window and they turn brown. You enter a blue room and they become olive. It's not tricks or anything mystical. It's real-time adaptation. And here is the paradox. They do not reflect as much as blue eyes, nor protect like brown eyes, but precisely because of that, hazel eyes are a perfect adaptation to switch between shadows and reflections without losing visual stability. Think of them as a living texture. Biologically, they have an intermediate amount of melanin, not enough for the eye to appear dark, nor too little for the light to completely scatter. They are right at a midpoint, where the color is neither fixed nor completely stable. And although it seems an unusual combination, that mix ended up giving rise to a unique and very adaptable type of eye, providing an advantage. And that combination of factors makes the color of hazel eyes very sensitive to changes. It can vary depending on the light, temperature, environment, and even your emotional state. Simple things like the color of clothing or the direction also influence from where the light enters. And why does this happen? Because hazel eyes actively respond to stimuli such as light or emotions. When the pupils dilate or blood circulation changes, the color of the iris, it can look different. When you're excited, the green seems to expand. When you are calm, warm tones take over the iris. And when something upsets you, something darker appears, like a shadow in the back of the eye. It is the only color that cannot be classified. That is why some scientists try to reduce them to light brown or ambiguous green. But they are really both, amber eyes. It is not humans who carry this color best. You see it mostly in wolves, owls, and tigers, not as decoration, but as a warning. In humans, they are extremely rare. Less than 5% of the population has them. They are often confused with hazel or light brown eyes until you see them under the right light, and then there's no doubt they do not change or dissolve into shades. The secret lies in the lipochrome, that pigment more common in animals that accumulates in the human iris, with little or no presence of melanin. Without the bluish effect of scattering, the result is a true amber gaze, not honey or disguised brown, but pure amber. And with this color, there's something most bizarre. Amber eyes provoke an immediate reaction in those who observe them. As that golden tone is more common in predatory animals, some scientists suggest that humans may have an instinctive response of alertness or attention upon seeing these tones. In many cultures, such a gaze has been associated with leadership and with contained inner energy. They look as if they have already decided what is going to happen and you instinctively understand it. Gray eyes do not shine, do not change color, and do not attract much attention, but when they look at you, you feel they pierce through you. Less than 3% of the world's population has them, and it is not just their color that makes them rare, it is their structure. They even have less melanin than blue eyes, which means they scatter more light, but differently. Instead of reflecting it with a warm or vivid tone, they dissolve it. Those who have them do not project immediate emotion, not glowing with enthusiasm, nor dimming with sadness. And what is most disconcerting is this: they do not reveal intention. They do not show if they're going to laugh or if they're about to make a decision that will change everything. In mythology, gray eyes belong to wind gods, ice queens, and elders who knew everything. Red eyes. Although it may seem like science fiction, There are real people with eyes that, under certain conditions, appear to glow red or even violet. It all has to do with melanin, or rather, its absence. In extreme cases of ocular albinism, the iris has no pigment to absorb or scatter light. This makes the blood vessels behind the eye partially visible. And when light passes through the iris, what is reflected? It is not color, but blood. The result can be a weak red tone, especially under intense lighting. But depending on the angle of light and the internal structure of the eye, they can also appear violet or lavender. Although extremely rare, these colors do exist. A famous case is that of Elizabeth Taylor, whose eyes appeared purple. In reality, she had very peculiar bluish-gray eyes, which under white light or with certain reflections created that violet illusion. But in people with real albinism, the red is more evident and clinically explainable. Their visual acuity is usually reduced, and they require constant protection from the sun as they lack pigmentation that blocks UVA rays. The most interesting part is that, although they are not red in pigment, they are red in visual result, and this makes them one of the rarest phenomena within the human eye spectrum. Black eyes are the scariest. Science says they don't exist, but surely you've seen them. If you break them down, they are such a dark brown that they let no light escape. While other colors reflect, absorb, or change with the environment, black eyes consume everything. It's as if they were literally a black hole in space. Biologically, they are the result of extreme melanin saturation. That high concentration causes almost no light to bounce back. What you see is the visual equivalent of a closed door, and in very rare cases, like aniridia, the iris can be almost absent, leaving only a black abyss in its place. And that's why, since ancient times, they have been attributed a peculiar power. In folk tales, black eyes mark the presence of the unusual, disguised demons, hidden gods, or soulless presences. Heterochromia is a curious contradictory phenomenon that occurs in less than 1% of the world's population. One eye is light, the other is dark. That is heterochromia. And it is not a mistake, it is a message. In the majority of people, melanin is distributed symmetrically, both eyes, the same code. But in a few, the algorithm breaks and the result seems taken from another reality. There are those who are born with one blue eye and one brown, others with a golden stripe crossing a green iris, as if something were leaking from another layer. Some show one color in the center and another on the periphery, as if the eye is trying to blend two versions of itself. There can be three types: complete heterochromia, one eye different from the other; partial, where a section of the iris changes tone like a scar of light; and central, two colors revolving around the pupil like a slow motion eclipse. People with heterochromia don't see differently than the rest, but they are perceived differently because without saying a word, your eyes already tell a story. Ocular Ring. It's not a superpower nor a hereditary trait, but when it appears, it's impossible not to notice. Some people develop a golden ring around the iris. It's called the Kaiser-Fleischer ring, and it's not an eye color, it's a medical warning. This ring is an accumulation of copper on the edges of the iris caused by Wilson's disease. It's a genetic disorder that prevents the body from eliminating excess copper, leading to its accumulation in organs and in the eyes. Visually, the ring can be mistaken for an aesthetic feature, but in reality, it's a clinical sign that something is wrong. The accumulation begins gradually and is only detected with special lamps in the early stages, but in advanced cases, it becomes visible to the naked eye. A metallic ring surrounding the outer part of the iris, and although it does not directly affect vision, it does indicate that copper is also accumulating in other parts of the body, such as the liver or the brain. Interestingly, some people have discovered it by accident during routine eye exams, without knowing they had a chronic genetic disease. So if you ever notice a strange reflection in someone's eyes, a golden glint that shouldn't be there, it might not be an issue of color, but a sign that requires urgent medical attention. Don't forget to support this type of content by subscribing and watching this other very interesting video that you will love.